Is it too late to talk about Stranger Things season 5? Because I feel like it's not. Stranger Things as we know it is finished. Spanning for nearly a decade, the sci-fi thriller that garnered fans around the world, myself included, is over, more or less. I want to say that this is one of the first shows that I've watched debut and wrap up within my lifespan. Like, I don't think I've ever waited for new installments to a series from beginning to end. And that makes it hurt just that much more watching those final credits roll across the screen. And I'm reminiscing on everything that made this show great. That's why it also hurts so much having to watch this final season just flop so tremendously in every aspect. And thank you for your service. I'm an avid Walking Dead fan, so I know firsthand what it's like to watch your favorite show suffer such a slow and tragic fate, divulging into just nothingness and finally having the balls to just tuck tail and run and call it a day, even though the damage has already been done and you've been on a downward slope for years, and then finally jumping out before you hit rock bottom. It blows. I feel like the same things happen. The ending gets rushed, there's no stakes, the actors already have contracts somewhere else, they need to move on to a better project, so many side plots just get completely left out, and then the credits roll and you're like, oh, that's it, isn't it? I think Stranger Things went through a very similar identity crisis and sloppy HR final solution. Season 5 was nothing less than a sloppy, soulless, cash grabbing mess from beginning to end, and it is a prime example of what happens when you get content with success. And I'm going to talk about seasons 1 and 2 and 3 a lot, and I promise you I am not looking at this through rose tinted glasses. If you go back and watch it now, it still holds up. You can see a tremendous difference in the slop fest that they just served us with season 5. And you want to know why there's a tremendous difference? Because the budget was lower. And I know what you're thinking, oh, how does that make sense? You know, if there's less money, it's probably not going to be a good product. I really don't think that you can write great stories, great songs, great scripts, or create great art while you kick your feet up in a multi-million dollar mansion. Humans are at their best when they are fighting tooth and nail for everything they have, and they have everything to lose. Season 5 had nothing to lose. That's the problem. No matter what they were going to put out, they were guaranteed millions of eyes on their product and millions of dollars in their pockets. It didn't matter what they did, they were going to make money either way. And I think that's why we got what we did. When nobody on any production team is ever held accountable for their actions, this is what you're going to get 9 times out of 10. In the earlier seasons, writers, directors, the actors, everybody, even the people working in the green room, are working their asses off because all of their livelihoods are on the line. It is paramount that they put out a meaningful product because they need the pilot to get greenlit. They need more seasons in the future. Like, these people need their paychecks. So everyone on that team is breaking their back to keep their job intact for however long those cameras roll. But now that we've made, money hand over fist, we've sold the script to the studio, all of these actors are A-list celebrities. We've sold the DVD boxes, all the plushies, all the D&D kits, all the apparel, the action figures, and so much other merchandise that's going to populate a landfill in a couple of years. The money is in their pockets and they have nothing else to worry about. Oh, the people want another season or they want a spinoff? Sure, man, I'll figure out a script. They got content and they got sloppy. That's the bottom line. So let's talk about the product that we actually got. All right, so let's begin with my biggest pet peeve. Dialogue. The Disneyfication of season 5's dialogue is insane. It was a little so-so in season 3 when things were all exciting and the kids were getting to experience the 80s a little bit more and they could goof off. And then it started getting a little shoddy in season 4, even though we were trying to tone up the seriousness. And then in season 5 it was too far gone. Anytime someone opened their mouth, it was just annoyingly cliche or just blatant exposition to drive the plot forward. Everyone had to be quirky and quippy, no matter how out of character it was for them. And those that it was in their character for, they just got scaled exponentially. Every sentence, there needed to be a full carousel pan around the group to make sure everybody got something to say and everybody got to, spit out a quick, cheap one-liner. Anime has pretty much the exact same trope. One person will say something and then we cut to every single person in the room's reaction, like either like all at once or maybe one by one. I get that we have a lot of characters to keep up with at this point, but that is not the way to go about it. You want to know a great way to avoid that? Stop adding so many characters. So let's talk about the characters that we did get introduced to, because, you know, we only have like 8 episodes left and we still have to introduce new characters. And you know what? Let's beef it up and let's just have a whole new protagonist that we focus on this season. And even still, none of the characters we got introduced to did anything. Holly and Derek, pretty much only written in for the same reason as to why Uncle Jesse needed to have a baby on Full House. So Holly served as pretty much just a damsel in distress, and then Derek was just comic relief for anybody that's in elementary school watching this show, even though it's rated MA. Oh, I have torches. What am I doing? And they really don't do much else. I'm sorry. I don't think we need to introduce a new, completely new main character with only a few hours left in the entire series. On top of them, we get even more G.I. Joe rip-off soldiers plastered all over the place, and they all have this boring and bland leader that's about as scary as a narcoleptic puppy. Not to mention the fact that she just straight up gives up at the end after, you know, half her platoon is killed by these people just because she thinks that Elle is gone. So the entire threat of this military occupation that we hyped up so much in the first few episodes just pretty much becomes a minor inconvenience to work around. Don't worry though. Don't worry though. In the end, the stakes were absolutely massive, you know? All of our people are putting their life on the line. Okay. You know, the stakes were absolutely massive, and many of our brave soldiers fought valiantly and lost their lives for the greater good. Oh, only one person actually bit the dust? Only one? Who was it? Oh, it was that girl from that unanimous... Excuse me! Oh, it was the girl that is from that unanimously hated one-off episode, only to be reintroduced to the party as cannon fodder at the end of the season. And to be the only one that bites the dust at the end of the season, so no one important actually has to.
Correct!
Oh, okay, gotcha. And then Elle has to pretend to care about her for like 30 seconds while she's dying, and then we just pretty much move on like nothing happened. Mainly because this girl has been on screen for like 5 minutes in the past 10 years. It's just lazy, fabricated, manufactured emotional appeals trying to get a cheap tear out of somebody's eye. Honestly, I thought Mr. Clark was going to catch a stray after joining the party. But thankfully they, you know, let him be so that he could crack the librarian some more. And another critique on the writing that everyone has already said at this point, but there's no bigger insult to me than when movies and TV shows try to treat me like I'm stupid. It's been said before that, like, the Netflixification of these scripts where they're pretty much just catering to the audiences that are not watching the show and are pretty much just having their TV turned on in the background with their phone in their hand. So they're constantly having to remind the viewer what's going on. And boy, did Season 5 do that over and over. Nearly twice an episode, we get the team laying out their next plan with whatever is laying around them to catch their viewers up to speed and drive the plot along. I get that they've been doing that since Season 1, and that's fine, but multiple times an episode with the same copy and paste format every single time, no. No, that is not good writing. All of the action sequences are garbled, green screened, jump cut ridden disasters every single time. There's no weight to anything, okay? The characters make pointless decisions that could be easily solved and have been easily solved in the past. All of the visual effects are sloppy. They just do not look good. There's plot armor of the highest order. And then there's even more of... You know what? Please just take me. And then there's even more people trying to be a martyr for no reason, and then they don't become a martyr because they don't do anything. And those tropes got old pretty fast. So how about this final fight, you know? The one where literally no one has to struggle or suffer in any way. They spent more time, and it felt like more risk, climbing the radio tower. We spent more time on that radio tower than we did fighting the skyscraping interdimensional omnipotent monster and his lackey that has been soloing us for the past 2 seasons now. And that fight is over in 5 minutes. Are you serious? 5 minutes? And going back to the tower, they have just a dumb fake out death scene for Steve, which reminds me of Glenn's fake out death in season 6. But at least Nick died in that. This is just the writers dangling some fake suspense in front of you like jangling keys when there's no stakes to be gambled with. It's just a slap in the face to anyone that's watching the screen without their phones in their hand. Dude, please leave me alone. So we're on this alien planet, which is just lucky enough to not only have oxygen, but also have an atmosphere on it. And then we're armed with makeshift spears, some Molotovs, and like 2 assault rifles. You know, those same assault rifles that like 50 different soldiers had and were shooting Vecna with simultaneously, and he completely tanked them and low diff wiped all of them in like 30 seconds flat. Yeah, sure, man. And also, were you expecting any other dangers in this apocalypse world? You know, like maybe the Demogorgons or the Demodogs or the Demo Bats that were introduced and never brought back? Were you expecting any of those to be in here? You know, since this is like where they live? Nope, 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 not here. No, just these 2 dudes, nothing else. I will say that the Mind Flayer's physical form looked pretty dope. It seemed to be the only, like, CG that seemed to hold up in my mind. I think they did a great job on his design. Too bad he is just straight up made out of paper mache and genuinely does nothing but serve as Vecna's cart titan. Even though it's supposed to be the Mind Flayer is in control of Vecna. So again, the Mind Flayer is just basically Rigby from that one episode where he gets turned into a house. Thank God those government-issued combat knives can slice through this end-all be-all creature that's the size of Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Once again, this is the fight that's supposed to be the culmination of all of the group's trials and tribulations over the past 5 seasons, and it's genuinely done in 5 minutes. 5 minutes. By the way, no one dies. No one even gets hurt. Like, I know Attack on Titan was not going to kill Levi, but at least they put him in a wheelchair to show the effort that he gave and the effort that he left on the battlefield. This group actually had this fight so under control that they let Joyce get a swing in with an axe on Vecna. Honestly, I'm surprised we didn't get like a single file line of all the characters walking past one by one to each get their own like one-liner in before like smacking him or like spitting on him and then walking off. Like it was just straight bonkers, man. So let's talk about the ending that we just rushed into. I think it's passable. I think it's lazy, but it's passable. They went for the just lazy passing of the torch ending, and it didn't really do anything. I'm gonna call it right now, folks. I'm gonna call it in 2029. We are going to get a Holly and Friends spin-off Stranger Things series. Mark my words. This mangled horse skeleton has some punches still left to take. There's, of course, also a lot of plot lines that just go completely overlooked and unfinished without a word, and we just focused on our main characters. Like, I guess they just thought that the audience would forget about everybody since, you know, our main guys are graduating high school. Like, no, I thought we've spent the last, you know, few seasons showing how important our side characters are, but now we just don't care. Now we don't care. And now the Duffer Brothers are having to go back and give explanations on Twitter as to what got neglected. You would think with $500 million in budget, we could have like fired up the cameras for like 5 more minutes and actually just explain what happened, especially since that last episode is like 2.5 hours long. And there's so much more negative stuff for me to talk about, and it's already all been said, and probably much better as well, with much better Minecraft gameplay in the background. If there was anything I missed, which again, a lot better people have gone over a lot more stuff and done a lot better critique than I have. Again, with a lot better Minecraft gameplay in the background, like I don't even have a tool. And you know, they probably actually like made the video like 6 months ago when it was still relevant. But yeah, that's just my thoughts on Stranger Things Season 5 and I guess Stranger Things as a whole. If there's anything I might have missed or, you know, anything that you found pretty entertaining and actually liked about Season 5, just let me know. You know, I'm always open to change my mind.